Hey, welcome back to Livin MN Outdoors. I'm Daniel, and thanks for tuning in to another fishing report. Before we hop into this week's fishing report, like usual guys, if you use any of the guides or resorts mentioned in today's report, please let them know you saw them on Livin MN Outdoors. And with that being said, let's dive right into this week's fishing report. Alright guys, this past week I spent some time up in the Moose Lake area. I was able to get out fishing a few times. I know we don't typically cover that area, but I thought I'd give you a little bonus information. Midday fishing, we found perch, bluegills, and walleyes off of deep weed edges in 10 to 12 feet of water. The best ways to catch them was with a jig in minnow or a minnow underneath a slip bobber. So if you guys are going to be in the Moose Lake area, try those deeper weed lines and bring some minnows along and you might have some success. Alright, now starting on Lake Winnie, the walleye bite is phenomenal out there right now. 6 to 9 feet of water is the area you need to be focusing on. They are not honing in on a certain type of structure. They are more honed in on a depth range right now, and it is 6 to 9 feet. Now, the best ways to catch those fish in that depth is to pull spinners and use bright colored spinners such as white and pink, white and chartreuse, white and purple. Those are working very well. Now, as far as the bait to use, night crawlers are working very well. Some guys are still using some leeches, and fatheads are working well as well. Now, a lot of guys are going out there right now. They're catching 30, 40, even 50 fish in a day. So if you go out there, you cover some water, put some time in, you're more than likely going to have some very good walleye fishing up on Lake Winnie. Now, as far as the perch bite goes, a lot of perch are mixed in with those walleyes in that depth range. Some are still out a little bit deeper off of the deeper weed edges in 8 to 12 feet of water, but catching those on spinners, getting a few on slip bobbers, and pitching jigs and minnows is starting to work really well also. Now, as far as panfish go, panfish are starting to show up in Tamarack Bay on the deep weed edges in that 7 to 10 feet of water, getting those, pulling spinners, throwing jigs and minnows, or a slip bobber and a night crawler is working as well. Now, they're still getting muskies over on the second break off of the east side of the lake, using big crankbaits, either casting or trolling those, and having quite a bit of success. Now, as far as the pike go, not a lot of big pike being caught right now, but there is quite a few of them smaller pike mixed in with the walleye and perch up there feeding on those shallow bait balls that are up in close to shore right now. So if you want to get some nice eater pike, now's the time to get up there and chase some of those as well. Now, if you guys are looking for a guide up on Lake Winnie, zupsguideservice is the premier walleye guide out on Lake Winnie. He does not have a ton of availability left this season, but he does have some. Whether you want to do an all-day trip or a twilight trip, give him a call, see if your dates will fit his schedule, and hop in the boat with Scott and have a blast fishing some Lake Winnie walleyes. Now, if you're looking for a place to stay up there, the Pines Resort, they have campsites, cabins. They have a full bar and restaurant, dock slips, live bait, fish cleaning shack. They basically got everything you need to have a successful fishing trip up on Lake Winnie. So if you're looking to get up there, go ahead and give Chad a call from the Pines Resort. All right, now moving over to Leech Lake. The bite on Leech is starting to pick up a little bit. The fall patterns are starting to show signs up there. The bigger perch are starting to move up to those shallow weed flats and those shallow sand flats. 6 to 10 feet of water is a good depth range to start on those. I did get some reports in Walker Bay. They're getting some really nice perch over there. Agency Bay is starting to put out quite a few nice perch. A jig and a minnow or a jig and half a crawler is working really well for those perch. Now, as far as the walleye bite goes, that is picking up some. The best depth range right now for those walleyes is 7 to 18 feet of water. Some of those walleyes are following those perch up into those shallow weed lines and shallow sand flats. The best ways to catch those right now, a jig and half a crawler, a jig and a minnow, slip bobbers and leeches are still working. Guys are pulling spinners, tipping those with minnows, crawlers, and leeches. And then the evening and after dark crankbait bite is really starting to pick up. Now, if you're gonna pull crankbait, some of the better colors right now, perch pattern, crawfish pattern, and purple is working very well out there. Now, as far as the muskies go, the muskies, they're pushed up onto that shallow structure, shallow weed lines, deeper weed lines. A lot of them muskies are following those perch up in shallow and feeding on those perch. Best ways to catch those, bucktails, topwaters, and tubes are working very well up on Leech Lake. Now, as far as smallmouth bass, they're still out on the main lake rocks. They are sliding out a little bit deeper, so look for those in that 12 to 20 feet. Drop shots, Ned rigs, or a slip bobber with live bait is working to pick up some of those nice smallmouth. Now, if you guys are looking for a guide up on Leech Lake Guide Team LLC, they do a phenomenal job up there. They got 8 or 9 guides on their team, whether you want to chase muskies, walleye, panfish. They will be doing some perch trips starting late September, early October. So if you want to get up on Leech Lake and book a trip with a guide, go ahead, check out Leech Lake Guide Team LLC. Now, if you're looking for a place to stay up on Leech Lake, Horseshoe Bay Lodge, they have hotel rooms, cabins, condos, full bar and restaurant, indoor swimming pool, hot tub, sauna, beautiful beach, water toys. And if you do mention Livin MN Outdoors when making your reservation, you will receive a discount on your room. So don't forget to mention us when making those reservations. Now, I did talk to Cam. He said they have plenty of rooms available this coming weekend for the bass tournament that's happening up there, or if you just want to come up and do some fishing on your own. So go ahead, call Cam or Courtney from Horseshoe Bay Lodge and book yourself a trip. All right, now moving over to Mille Lacs Lake. This is gonna be one of the few reports this year where I say fishing has been pretty tough out there. Recently, there was a big bug hatch out there. The fish are absolutely gorging on those bugs right now. The few that are biting, when you cut them open, you're finding remnants of those bugs inside their stomachs. So it's making the bite kind of tough. Now, some areas that you can look for those walleyes on the rocks in anywhere from 8 to 26 feet of water. Guys are having more success on the rocks than other structures right now. I would say kind of the sweet spot, especially in the evening, is that 20 to 25 feet of water. Some guys are still getting them out on the mud flats, on the edges and points, anywhere from 26 to 34 feet of water. And then the deep gravel is still producing some fish as well over on the east and southeast sides. Now, the best ways to catch those, like usual, slip bobber and a leech, slip bobber and half a crawler. Guys are pulling bottom bouncers with crawlers and leeches as well. I haven't heard a lot about the crankbait bite lately, so not sure if that's still working. But I'm sure if you put down some lead core and pulled some crankbaits, you might pick up some fish that way as well. Now, as far as the smallmouth bass bite goes, there still are some of those fish up in those shallow rocks in that 6 to 12 feet of water, but they're tending to be a little bit smaller up there with a lot of those bigger smallmouth pushing out deeper. I would say in that 16 to 22 feet of water. There doesn't seem to be quite the number of them out deeper there, but they are definitely bigger when you are catching them out deeper. Now, like usual, guys, the best ways to catch those smallmouth, a drop shot and a Ned rig is working very well. Guys are starting to rig some small sucker minnows and shiners and catching them that way as well. But if you are going to fish them that way, I would just say be careful. A lot of times those smallmouth get hooked really deep when you're fishing them that way. So try and take good care of those fish and get them back in the water. Now, as far as the musky bite goes, the musky bite has been pretty good out on Mille Lacs Lake. Like usual, there are two general areas to target those: deeper weed lines with bucktails, topwaters, and jerkbaits. And then those main lake muskies that are out by the Tullabee schools, trolling big crankbaits, pitching big rubber baits at them, and they are catching some absolute hog muskies out on Mille Lacs Lake. Now, as far as the pike go, southern bays or main lake weed lines in that 8 to 12 feet of water, pulling big spoons, big spinner baits, big crankbaits. They're catching some really big pike out there. And like usual, white and silver, white and purple, those are some great colors to pull. Now, the perch bite out on Mille Lacs Lake, the perch bite has actually still been pretty decent even with this bug hatch. They're getting them off of the mud flats, the rocks. There are a few over on the gravel, but if you're solely looking for perch, I would focus on those rocks and mud flats. And I have been hearing that they're anywhere from 1 foot off bottom up to 6 feet off bottom. So pay attention to your electronics and kind of hone in on where those fish are hovering. Once again, the best ways to catch those perch, slip bobber and a leech, slip bobber and a crawler, or pulling spinners is working as well. Now, if you're looking for a guide, a launch boat, cabins, whatever that might be, Castles Resort out of Isle, they can provide all of that. They are going to be running some launch trips this coming weekend, so if you want to hop on a boat, not have to worry about anything, they do provide rod and reel, bait. They do have a grill, so bring some meat, bring some drinks, have a blast out on Mille Lacs Lake. Go ahead, give Castles Resort a call and book a stay or a launch trip with them. Alright guys, well, that's going to do it for this week's fishing report. Just a reminder, guys, with all of the resorts and guides, they are starting to take ice fishing reservations. Believe it or not, we're only like 100 days away from ice fishing season. And those early prime days start to book up really fast this time of year. So if you want to get in on some ice castles, some cabins, whatever it might be for ice fishing, go ahead, give them a call and get something booked as soon as possible. Now remember, if you guys make it out fishing, take some pictures, send them to us over on Facebook or to our email. Be kind at the boat ramps, respect other fishermen, and most importantly, don't forget to get on out there and get living.